Welcome to the Forgettable Reads podcast, a no-nonsense sleepcast for the rest of us. No creepy whispering, no bad spell music, no sleepy monotone. Just sincere reads of boring, bland material for all your verbal white noise needs. And now your host, Lauren Goode.
Good evening, my friends, and welcome to episode 14. Last month, I shared some of my takeaways gleaned from watching an HGTV series called Celebrity IOU, where celebrities nominated someone from their lives who had been with them through thick and thin to receive a space makeover from the Property Brothers. And tonight, I am going to continue that theme with the philosophy I have been uncovering and discovering in the great food truck race. Maybe it's because I always loved books like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance and The Tao of Pooh, but one special form of entertainment I've always had access to is being able to find best practices and life science in just about anything. In college, I remember telling Dr. Ballard, who was my philosophy professor as well as my advisor, that I was collecting bits of wisdom from solitaire games on my computer in between homework assignments. Now, to my disappointment, he was not impressed, but he did think it pointed to someone who had a vivid imagination, even if it was filled with silliness and flights of fancy. And I think he would prefer something more practical or useful. Anyway, I will continue to enjoy my private hobby and now share it with you in the most boring, rambling ways possible. So if you have not watched the Great Food Truck Race, the concept is pretty simple in terms of it being a reality TV game show. There are 8 teams given branded food trucks and a matching follow-up car. They race from city to city across the country, and they sell food to each community. Whomever makes the most sales wins, and whoever makes the least gets eliminated and has to turn the keys to their new food truck back in. The overall season winner earns a hefty cash prize and the ability to keep their truck. Along the way, the show's host, Food TV's Chef Tyler Florence, throws in some extra challenges called speed bumps and truck stops. And he really makes sure to heighten the drama by never giving them advanced notice and also dropping them at the worst possible time. He knows, of course, because he's watching them, so he knows when the worst possible time is. But life also seems to like to throw us those unwanted setbacks as if it were watching us. Now, I chose this show because I had really enjoyed Tyler's personality and good looks on America's Worst Cooks, and because this show, The Great Food Truck Race, has over 10 seasons, which means if I liked it, and I do, I would be able to put off having to find something else to watch during my evening wind-down ritual for a long time. So I did. Many of the contestants, especially in the later seasons, have some fairly high stakes and emotional reasons for why they've entered the competition. There's, in one season, one man whose father told him that men don't belong in the kitchen when he announced he was going to attend culinary school, and so he wanted to prove his father wrong. Winning the race to him was the equivalent of being loved, respected, and accepted by his father. There was another woman in a different season who had lost her restaurant to a flood after a hurricane, and her livelihood depended on being able to find a new way to continue making and selling her food because the restaurant had been her husband's dream, and he had passed away prior to the storm. So in her mind, winning the race was the equivalent of keeping him alive. Now, you may know where I'm going with this, but spoiler alert, neither of those teams won. In fact, they both got eliminated pretty early in the season. As I watch each episode, I try to identify the trends of why certain teams seem to get ahead and why others fall behind. On the winning side, it generally seems to rely on the teams having some sort of built-in community or following. For example, the Korean and Hawaiian trucks rallied the local community members who followed them to their new locations to show love and support and a ton of cultural pride. Trucks that spent the commuting time calling local businesses to build partnerships also found that sense of community or gaining followers. Whether it was finding a brewery or a street fest to connect to, or tapping into people's interests on social media, like the bacon truck did. They found, groups that were all about bacon and found like local community members there. Basically, as long as they could build a following and find community before they parked the truck, they highly, highly increased their chances of success. So that's the pre-planning, pre-strategizing part. On the flip side, once they were on location, having the ability to recognize if they needed to pivot was also vastly important. Whether that meant leaving a location that didn't have foot traffic or taking items off the menu that were not selling and then reinventing the menu to have more sellable things, it was definitely the "he who hesitates is lost" motto. Teams who had very lively, extroverted people on their teams or were really good with crowd working and engagement seemed to also be making a killing. There were teams who just, focused on making the food, right? That's what I'm a chef. I make the food. I don't market. I don't do all this stuff. But yeah, so the teams who got out there and really engaged with the people outside the food truck just really slaughtered the people who did not, I guess, is my point. So there was this idea about like, if you just sit and wait for business to show up, there's no guarantee it will. You got to go out there. You got to spotlight, the work. You got to find the people that you were meant for. Now, time and time again, it wasn't big things like losing challenges or not being able to make sales because of really bad weather that made the difference for elimination. It was small mistakes that they repeated. And over the course of the weekend, those repeated small mistakes were what hurt the team's performance. Definitely understanding that wasted time was also wasted money. For example, there was one truck that decided at the end of the day to go buy more ingredients so that they could sell more. And so they came back with all these ingredients and then ran out of time prepping and then couldn't make any sales. And so now they had all these ingredients and no sales. So it's just really understanding how critical the time management was. Now, going back to where I started about the emotional attachments that some teams had becoming a major liability, what I noticed is it's the teams who wanted it but didn't need it who seemed to do better. There wasn't any ego cleaning or attaching their identity to winning or losing. If they lost a competition on a reality TV show. They didn't lose their husband all over again. They didn't lose their father's approval all over again, right? It was their two separate things. They are not attached. And it was almost always the kiss of death anytime a team would say, "No one wants this more than we do," or "No one wants this more than I do," right before the elimination. Now, that's easier said than done. Let's bring that out of the show and talk about in real life. Even in voiceover, I see people all the time, and myself being one of them, confusing wanting dreams to come true in terms of starting a new career or being passionate about it with absolutely crushing their own souls with this burden of and it has to happen now. That burden is if it doesn't happen now, it's because it means something. It means I'm a failure, or I'll be the point of ridicule, or it will kill me. Tell you my own personal story with this. I actually quit auditioning for a year. I just kind of stepped away from voiceover. I had several of my friends who I went to college with are now very famous on-camera actors. Stephanie Bischoff, Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Encanto fame, and Brian Smith, who was on Sense8 and all these different plays. And people would text me and be like, so when are you going to be famous? I never really cared about being famous, but the fact that I was auditioning for all this voiceover work and I was like never booking it, it's like I wasted my time and money in college, getting a training in a career that apparently I sucked at. And so that's what it was for me. It's like I equated my booking ratio with my worth. And so that's why I had to walk away. I absolutely had to walk away from it. And when I came back, when I hired a coach, I said, help me fall back in love with voiceover. I need to remember that voiceover is something that I do, that I enjoy, not something that I am. And so that's what I mean. That's the difference between wanting something and it being its own thing. And like, it has to happen because it's who you are, or it means something like huge to you. Which brings me to the next piece. It's like, whether it's the game show or real life or voiceover or whatever, even if you do succeed at whatever it is you're trying to do, it doesn't last. It's not like, and then they lived happily ever after, just like that. You have to get up and do it again the next day. For the racers, they had to do it again, in the next city or in the next part of the city the next day. Or with voiceover, you've got to do it on the next audition or the next project. It's every day you get to do it again. There isn't a finish line. The goal of the game is to keep playing. And it's like making the bed. Even if you make it really, really well, if you sleep in it again, you're going to have to make it again. And that really, I think sometimes when we're so focused on success, we forget that this is life. This is the process. This is the journey. This is the practice. We have to set it up for ourselves in a way that we enjoy it and it helps us grow. Now, on a lighter note, I will say, while I am not a chef, I would absolutely love to at some point in my life be part of a food truck, because I would love to be the hyping spokesperson for the truck who's out there working the crowds and, got the bullhorn and dancing and being silly, trying to get people to come. I just think that would be great. And I think it would be such a fun excuse to take a road trip and see all kinds of beautiful places and meet really interesting people. Don't worry, I will stick to voiceover for now. Okay, let's transition to our reading. Based on the kind of the themes that we talked about tonight, for tonight's reading, we're going to hold a competition. We're going to have a real live human author versus a ChatGPT written article about how it is A-OK to scale back and feel less ambition during your lifetime evolution. All right, and so our first contender in tonight's reading competition, the great article race, if you will, is Dory Clark with How to Make Peace with Feeling Less Ambitious, something from the Managing Yourself category of the Harvard Business Review. At the start of every new year, we're inundated with advice about how to plan your professional development for the next 12 months or tackle major goals you've been putting off. But what if that's really not where you are this year? Increasingly, I've been hearing from a number of my clients about their desire to scale back their professional ambitions, at least for now. A recent Gallup report showed that stress among workers has reached an all-time high, and only a third of workers are thriving in their well-being. With the stress of the pandemic and the adjustments we've all had to make professionally, it's no surprise that something had to give. But the desire to downshift is often accompanied with feelings of ambivalence or even shame. After all, despite the fact that so many professionals have experienced a sense of discomfort over the past few years, the success narrative of corporate life still only has one storyline. Work hard to get promoted, land more clients, get better known, and rise in the hierarchy. As a result, wanting a less frenetic pace at work and perhaps to take on fewer clients and responsibilities can feel professionally dangerous. Colleagues and clients have expressed concerns that downshifting, even for a year or two, might lead to them becoming irrelevant or forgotten by clients. And emotionally, the idea of stepping back may feel like a betrayal of their past selves who had worked so hard to build the steady stream of referrals and new business that they're now rebuffing. Their concerns are reasonable. Research by Sylvia Ann Hewlett on women attempting to re-enter the workforce after taking time off for children showcased the surprising level of difficulty they encountered, even if the gap was brief and their previous credentials accomplished. It's not impossible to imagine that any professional, male or female, might experience a similar challenge re-engaging with work after a sabbatical, or perhaps even a period of working less intensely. But despite the possible professional risks, if you're feeling burnt out or overstretched, it's important to recognize when you've hit or are about to hit a wall. Here are 3 strategies you can use to make peace with your desire to scale back your ambitions, even if it conflicts with your previous vision of yourself as a driven professional. Think in waves. As I describe in my book, The Long Game: How to Be a Long-Term Thinker in a Short-Term World, professionals, for understandable reasons, tend to keep doubling down on the strategies that have been effective for them at work. If you enjoy networking, for instance, you'll likely keep doing it. That's not a bad strategy in general, but it becomes a liability if you fail to recognize moments when you should shift your behavior. Networking is wonderful, but the marginal value of making a new connection is low when your performance evaluations are suffering due to, say, a lack of emphasis on your public speaking skills. The secret, then, is understanding how to think in waves and recognize when it's time to focus on another strategy. This applies within the professional realm. For example, reallocating your time from networking mixers to public speaking classes, and also beyond it. For many professionals, it may be time, after years or decades of grinding hard at work, to reallocate energy toward your health. If that's been on the back burner, or a struggling child, as one of my clients is now doing, or even just outside interests. Recognize there's not a universal timeline. By now, we all know the dangers of the comparison trap, in which we track our progress and sometimes drive ourselves to distraction by lining ourselves up against peers and colleagues. The behavior can be useful at times, allowing us to envision new possibilities for ourselves and spur us to healthy competition. But more often, it sparks self-recrimination. Why haven't I made partner when Rob already has? Why can't I land a 7-figure client like Donna did or publish a book like Marco did last year? What's wrong with me? The admonition that we're all running our own race may sound glib, but it's true. On a recent call with a colleague, she was disheartened that various business projects weren't advancing as fast as she'd like. Meanwhile, her best friend and business partner had unexpectedly died just a few months before. Another client was ready to take action on a suite of professional goals when a natural disaster hit her community. She immersed herself nearly full-time in relief efforts, but felt nervous about the impact on her business. It's understandable to want to follow through on the goals we've set previously, especially when it seems like everyone else we know is getting there faster. But we have to give ourselves grace and recognize that almost everyone's timeline will get derailed at some point. We just don't know when or in what particular fashion. Taking time to downshift now, if you need it, may feel like a step back, but it may give you the energy and clarity you need to move forward more quickly and effectively in the future. In fact, because so many people are reevaluating priorities and expectations post-pandemic, this may be the perfect time to recharge, because fewer people will be outpacing you on the traditional career track than at other historical moments. So, stepping off the treadmill may feel less stressful to you as a result. Understand the conditions for growth. Success often feels like a volume game. More time making connections, putting out proposals, and grinding at the office will lead to success. But sometimes, especially if you've already run yourself ragged and your ability to deliver in the traditional ways is compromised, What you need isn't more. What you need is different. Nearly a decade ago, I took a month off work and wrote about the process for Harvard Business Review. Taking an extended break and being relatively off the grid did entail sacrifices. Still, in the early days of my business, I was enormously stressed out about the economic implications of not working, because I hadn't yet built up any sources of passive income, and being out of touch meant I'd have to forfeit what was, at the time, significant revenue from clients with whom I was on a monthly retainer. But a decade later, the money seems negligible in retrospect, and the memory of spending a month traveling around India is worth far more to me. And even in just the short term, I discovered an unexpected benefit. Just days after returning, I wrote an article about 5 things you should stop doing at work that arose directly from the self-reflection the trip prompted about how I wanted to conduct my life. It became an unexpected success, and despite being published in mid-December, one of the most popular articles of the year. Allowing yourself different inputs, whether it's a month-long trip abroad or a year of stepping back from grind mentality and focusing on other areas of your life and well-being, leads to different outputs. While you may fall short on certain metrics you're used to grading yourself on, you may also find inspiration in new areas or distill new ideas that could become meaningful to you and others in the future. You're used to thinking of yourself as a high-achieving professional, and it may feel discomforting to have that identity brought into question through your own desires and actions. But downshifting your ambitions doesn't necessarily mean you're throwing away your past or becoming a slacker. It may actually mean that you finally recognized what it takes for achievement and ambition to be sustainable. Dory Clark is a marketing strategist and keynote speaker who teaches at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business and has been named one of the top 10 business thinkers in the world by Thinkers 50. Her latest book is The Long Game: How to Be a Long-Term Thinker in a Short-Term World, and you can receive her free Long Game Strategic Thinking self-assessment. And now, our second contender on the great article race about ambition. This is Lost Ambition Unveiled by ChatGPT. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Chronicles of Ambition, Navigating the Depths of Lost Drive. I am your host, Ernest Parchment, and in today's episode, we delve into the intricate labyrinth of human motivation, specifically exploring the enigmatic phenomenon of loss of ambition. Buckle up, for we are about to embark on a technical and meticulous expedition, unraveling the complexities of this haunting state of mind. Ambition, a fundamental driving force that propels us toward personal and professional growth, stands as the cornerstone of achievement and success. However, amidst the tapestry of human existence, there exists a disconcerting phenomenon, a gradual erosion of ambition, leaving behind a void once occupied by dreams and aspirations. Our aim today is to dissect this disheartening occurrence, examining its intricate mechanisms and contemplating the impact it has on individuals and society as a whole. To truly grasp the essence of lost ambition, we must first understand the multifaceted nature of ambition itself. Defined as a deeply ingrained desire for accomplishment, ambition is a dynamic interplay between intrinsic motivation, external factors, and individual circumstances. It encompasses the pursuit of goals, the drive for self-improvement, and the yearning for recognition and success. However, when the winds of time blow harshly against our sails, ambition can wither. Like a fragile flower starved of nourishment, the loss of ambition manifests itself in various forms: a gradual decline, a sudden disruption, or even a prolonged stagnation. This ethereal affliction can be triggered by a multitude of factors, such as unrealized expectations, external setbacks, personal crises, or a fundamental re-evaluation of one's life's purpose. Understanding the intricate mechanisms that govern the loss of ambition requires a dispassionate analysis of psychological, sociological, and neuroscientific perspectives. Researchers have posited various theories and frameworks to explore this phenomenon, From a cognitive standpoint, it is believed that diminished self-efficacy, negative thought patterns, and a sense of learned helplessness can contribute to the erosion of ambition. Societal factors such as an overemphasis on extrinsic rewards, cutthroat competition, or a lack of social support systems may also play a pivotal role. On a neural level, studies have identified potential links between the loss of ambition and alterations in brain regions responsible for motivation, reward processing, and emotional regulation. Neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin, which govern feelings of pleasure and well-being, can undergo imbalances, further exacerbating the decline in ambition. While the loss of ambition is a deeply personal experience, its repercussions extend beyond the individual. Societies are comprised of individuals whose collective ambition drives progress and innovation. The widespread prevalence of lost ambition can hinder societal advancement, stifling creativity, productivity, and overall well-being. Moreover, the interplay between lost ambition and mental health issues merits careful consideration. It can be a vicious cycle, perpetuating a sense of hopelessness and thwarting recovery. In the episodes to come, we will delve into practical techniques for self-reflection, setting realistic goals, fostering resilience, and rekindling the intrinsic motivation necessary to fuel ambition. We will also shed light on the role of external factors. ChatGPT, today known as podcast host Dr. Ernest Parchment.